Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Jai Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jai Jai Prabhupada. Jayam Vishwapad Brahmamsa Parijagacharya Stodara Sata Śrīmad Bhāgavatam Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki. Jayam Vishwapad Brahmamsa Parijagacharya Stodara Sata Śrīmad Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada ki. Granth Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande. So we're reading from Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 10, Prahlad, the best among exalted devotees. Verse 6. Aham tva akamas tvad bhaktas tvam cha swamya napashraya nanyate havayor artho Rajasevakayor iva aham tva akamas tvad bhaktas tvam cha swamya napashraya nanyate havayor artho Rajasevakayor iva aham twas kamas tvad bhaktas tvam cha swamya napashraya nanyayavayorto rajasevakayor iva. Matajis. Aham, as far as I am concerned, tu, indeed, a kama without material desire, tvat bhakta, fully attached to you, without motivation, tvamcha, your lordship also, Swami, the real master, anapashrayaha, without motivation. You do not become the master without motivation, with motivation. Na, not. Anyatha, without being in such a relationship as master and servant. Iha, here. Avayo, our. Artha, any motivation. The Lord is the pure master. And Prahlad Maharaj is the pure devotee with no materialistic motivation. Raja of a king, Sevakayo, and the servitor. Iva, like, just as a king exacts taxes for the benefit of the servant, or the citizens pay taxes for the benefit of the king. Translation. O my Lord, I am your unmotivated servant, and you are my eternal master. There is no need of our being anything other than master and servant. You are naturally my master, and I am naturally your servant. We have no other relationship. Purport. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Jivera Swarupa hai, Krishnera Nityadas. Every living being is eternally a servant of the Supreme Lord, Krishna. Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Bhoktaram, in chapter 5, verse 29, Bhoktaram Yagyatapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. I am the proprietor of all planets, and I am the supreme enjoyer. This is the natural position of the Lord, and the natural position of the living being is to surrender unto Him. Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam raja. If this relationship continues, then real happiness exists eternally between the master and servant. Unfortunately, when this eternal relationship is disturbed, the living entity wants to become separately happy and thinks that he, the master, is his order supplier. In this way, there cannot be happiness, nor should the master cater to the desires of the servant. If he does, he is not the real master. The real master commands, you must do this, and the real servant immediately obeys the order. Unless this relationship between the Supreme Lord and the subordinate living entity is established, there can be no real happiness. The living entity is Ashraya, always subordinate, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead is Vishaya, the supreme objective, the goal of life. Unfortunate persons trapped in this material world do not know this. Nate vidu svartha gatim hi vishnum. Illusioned by the material energy, everyone in this material world is unaware that the only aim of life is to approach Lord Vishnu. Aradhananam sarvesham Vishnu aradhanam param. Tasmat parataram devi tadiyanam samarchanam. In the Padma Purana, Lord Shiva explains to his wife Parvati, the goddess Durga, that the highest goal of life is to satisfy Lord Vishnu, who can be satisfied only when his servant is satisfied. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore teaches, Gopi Bhartu Padakamalyor Dasa Dasa Anudasa. One must become a servant of the servant. Prahlad Maharaj also prayed to Lord Narasimhadev that he might be engaged as the servant of the Lord's servant. This is the prescribed method of devotional service. As soon as a devotee wants the Supreme Personality of Godhead to be his order supplier, the Lord immediately refuses to become the master of such a motivated devotee. In Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, verse 11, the Lord says, Ye yatha mam prapadyante tams tathaiva bhajamyaham. As one surrenders unto me, I reward him accordingly. Materialistic persons are generally inclined to material profits. As long as one continues in such an adulterated position, he does not receive the benefit of returning home back to Godhead. It's a real nice verse and the purport. And I'll just read the translation once again. O my Lord, I am your unmotivated servant, and you are my eternal master. There is no need of our being anything other than master and servant. You are naturally my master, and I am naturally your servant. We have no other relationship. Om Jnanatimidandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Okay, so last chapter is where Prahlad Maharaj had all his prayers to pacify Narasimhadev, and in this and towards the end, when Lord is pleased and is offering his benedictions, and here in response to those benedictions, this is the mood that we can see of Prahlad Maharaj in this verse, where he's saying that actually, bring it up here, that I'm your unmotivated servant and you are my eternal master, and there is no need of being anything other than this relationship of master and servant. And and Prahlad Maharaj is completely unmotivated. He's serving not to gain anything, but he's serving because that's his natural position as a servant. Prabhupada is aptly quoting the verse, the Jivara Swarupa Hoy Krishna Nitya Das. That actually is the natural position, the eternal position of every living entity, that he or she is a servant of the Supreme Lord. Now, in the material world, no one aspires to be a servant, right? It's not a very glorious position to be a servant. Everyone wants to be the master. Everyone wants to be the great, in the company, in a working position, you want to be the CEO or the director or like a great manager, departmental head. You don't want to be just an ordinary admin or just a regular employee. That's not considered to be very high profile. The parents, when they're teaching, when are encouraging children to study, they're not saying that, oh, you should study so you become a great servant when you grow up. No. The goal is you become a great doctor, great lawyer, engineer, take great positions, high positions. So not to become a servant, that's not considered to be very high. And so this verse is explaining that actually our position is that we are servant. That's it. Servant of the Lord. Now, we can see in the material world that our desire, we have the desire and we have the nature to enjoy, but to enjoy, we must be able to control. So unless we are able to control, unless we are able to become the masters, we cannot really enjoy our So depending on our sphere of influence or control, we are going to be able to enjoy. So if your sphere is very limited to only 1 or 2 people in the family, then your enjoyment is also somewhat limited according to the material calculations. But if you are able to control the whole department in the company, then you are considered to be a greater controller and therefore a greater enjoyer. If your sphere of control or influence is even bigger, you can control the whole company, or you can control the whole town or country. That's considered to be very, very great. That means you're a great enjoyer. So in that way, the comparison or this equivalence, of how much you can control is how much you are able to enjoy. And there are different ways how we also like to control. The men have their way of controlling, by having a physique. They like to show off. Women will have their way of controlling, and father has his way of controlling. The children has their way of controlling the parents. So in that way, everyone wants to control somehow, because after all, to enjoy, one must be able to control. But to be able to control or to qualify to get to that position is not easy. One has to work quite a lot. To become a master, to be qualified, to then be able to control others to smaller or larger extent, there's a lot of effort involved to get there. And there is a greater work involved to maintain that status. Once you get to that position where you are able to control, now there is more work, and then there is also this constant fear that someone else might come and take over the position. So you have to always prove yourself that you are the best for this position, that you are doing the best. And in that way, of course, there is no peace of mind in the material status. And of course, without peace, there is no happiness. So sometimes devotees might think that Krishna consciousness is very hard. But such material enjoyment is even harder. To be able to control or to be able to enjoy is even more hard. And we can only imagine those people who are living this material lifestyle without any Krishna consciousness. It's such a drag. It's a lot of effort. Now, as devotees, we might have that mentality that, we can understand that in Krishna consciousness there is happiness. There is no doubt about that. But there are other things that we can do also that will get us some happiness, some satisfaction. In that way, we don't have to become like fully subservient to Krishna or his desire. We don't have to become fully surrendered to the devotional service. We can do devotional service, and we know that that will make us happy. And then there are many other things also. They are not too bad. They will also give us some happiness, some satisfaction. And so therefore, we try to always juggle. But in that way, again, there's that kind of half-hearted devotional service is not what Prahlad Maharaj is explaining here. And in the purport, Prabhupada explains that when this eternal relationship of master and servant, when that is disturbed, then the living entity tries to separately become happy and becomes a master, tries to become the master. And he hopes that Krishna or God becomes his order supplier. So instead of acknowledging this relationship of master and servant with the Lord, a conditioned living entity tries to enjoy in this world and hopes that Krishna will provide for my needs. And that way I'll be able to enjoy in this material world. And the mentality is that I'm serving God, I'm going there, I'm going to temple once in a month or once in a year, and I'm putting something in the hundi. I sometimes hear or chant the names of God. So now God must provide for what I need. So Prahlad Maharaj is very strongly actually rejecting and criticizing such mentality, the mentality of a merchant, the mentality where I give something to the Lord and the Lord should give something back to me. So it's an exchange. And in that exchange, I have done my little bit, now Lord has to do his little bit. And then then that's an exchange. But such kind of a mentality is not approved by Prahlad Maharaj here. He's saying that no. He said, I'm serving because that's my position. He said, I'm your servant and I'm eternally your servant and you are my eternal master. So there is you are naturally my master, I'm naturally your servant. And there is no need of being anything other than that. As a servant, one should be simply serving with no expectation or personal expectation. Therefore, Rupa Goswami says, Anya abhilashita shunyam. Is that there is no other abhilasha, there is no other desire for one's personal satisfaction. Actually, the only aim is to serve the Lord. So the mundane mentality is that there is the whole purpose of any service in the material world is that we are serving with the expectation that we will receive something in return. That a lot of time people say that I love my job. The question is, would you still work if the employer didn't pay you? No. So even though they love the job, they love the remuneration more. Correct? No money, no talk. I'm gone. So, same thing also in the relationship. Often the relationship of any kinds. The whole purpose of that relationship is, Prabhupada used to say that you scratch my back and I scratch your back. The moment you don't scratch mine, I don't scratch yours. You know, it's all about what I can get from you. But such mentality, there is no real love. And therefore, Prabhupada is pointing out here that in such relationship, as soon as that relationship is interrupted between the master and the servant, where we understand that Lord is the master and that we are the servant, as soon as that mentality is interrupted, then there is no happiness. Because then we are separately trying to enjoy. And also it's explained here, actually it's from the previous verse, Prabhupada is quoting that in yesterday's verse where it was mentioned that the demigods are the masters who are obliged to provide for the service from the servants. When the living entity, conditioned living entities, when they worship the demigods are obliged to reciprocate. Because after all, they need to hold their positions. And Prabhupada explains that to maintain their position, they must reciprocate. Otherwise, they'll end up losing their position. But for Krishna, it's not like that. Krishna doesn't necessarily give what we ask for. Krishna gives us what we need. And a lot of time actually, when we pray for something or we ask for something, actually we ourselves don't know what's good for us. Right? We ask for something and then few days later, we realize that maybe that was not a good idea to ask. Maybe I should be rather asking this. And then we realize that, maybe that's not a good idea. I should ask for something like this. And so we are constantly changing. We can't really make up our minds to what we want. One day we want something, and then soon we realize that that's not a very good idea. And then we try to ask for something else. But Krishna knows what is good for us. And so therefore, he is a real master, because, as Prabhupada is explaining here, nor should the master cater the desires of the servant. Servant doesn't always know what he needs, but the master knows. So there's this story that Prabhupada tells, that there was this old lady who was walking through the forest, and she had a very heavy load of wood on her shoulder. And as she was walking, she trampled over, and all the log on her shoulder fell off. And so because it was such a heavy load and she was somehow trying to balance it, now it's fallen onto the ground. To pick it up, it's very hard. And so she's crying desperately. And she's praying, Lord, please help. And so, to see her desperate prayer, Krishna himself comes to this lady. And says, you're crying so desperately. How can I help you? The lady says, oh, I was walking and I had this heavy load and I dropped my wood. He said, now can you please help me to put this wood back in my shoulder? And so Prabhupada laughs at it, and Prabhupada says that, look at this foolish lady. She could have just asked for liberation, she could have asked to transport the wood to the other end. No. She puts the wood back on her shoulder. She doesn't actually know what is good for her. And that is our situation also. When we ask for some material benefits for our service in Krishna consciousness, we do some service, we try to observe some vows, and then we have the desire, or we have that prayer that I hope Krishna fulfills such and such of my desire, so I can benefit in such and such ways. And that is quite often not very intelligent, because Krishna knows what is best for us, and Krishna is certainly able to give us what is best for us. And so a devotee is always just happy to do the service with no expectations in return. So what's the proper relationship between the master and servant? Prabhupada very nicely mentions in the purport. He says, the real master commands, you must do this, and the real servant immediately obeys the order. So, of course, when we hear this, we might have that hesitation that, how can you just follow the instruction? How can you just follow the command? We might find it a little hard to follow such instruction, but we have to understand that the Krishna's commands, or his representatives, his devotees, spiritual masters, when they instruct, they are not some kind of an exploitative, some control freaks, who just somehow trying to fulfill their own personal agendas by giving the instructions. No. Actually, these instructions are meant to help the conditioned souls come out of the illusion to find the real happiness. Sometimes our ego might be very big, and so therefore the devotees might find it hard to instruct us because we wouldn't take it. So therefore they can't really fully take that role of a master to say that you must do this. No. So therefore they have to somehow sugarcoat it. They have to glorify us. Somehow they have to justify their instructions to somehow then help us come out of our illusion. But actually this is the real master. A real master is that one who is going to instruct the conditioned living entity to come out of the illusion. And one who is a real servant is able to follow such instructions without any hesitation. So I can't really remember the reference to it, but there is also in one of the verses in the Bhagavatam where Prabhupada mentions the same point. I think it was the Kardama Muni instructing Devahuti, and that basically where it's mentioned that the dependent or the disciple should be able to take the instructions of the master or the spiritual master without any hesitation. So, and it's the attitude of the servant that actually gives liberty to the master to be able to act in that position where they are able to instruct without any hesitation. So, if the servant's attitude, if the devotee's attitude, if our attitude is not very humble or obedient, then of course the spiritual master or the mentors, devotees, senior devotees, they'll be hesitant to instruct us. And that's very dangerous position, because if they're not able to instruct us out of our illusion, then we probably end up staying there for a long time until we learn the lesson hard way. So it's better to have the right attitude of the servant so that the real master is able to command us in the service. And Prabhupada continues in the same line, is that unless this relationship between the Supreme Lord and the subordinate living entity is established, there can be no real happiness. Because of course, without this relationship and without following this instruction, if we don't have the instructions or the commands of the master, of the spiritual master, or Krishna, then we are acting on our mental whims of what we think is good for us, or what we have heard or what we have seen, what our interpretation of life and happiness is. We will act on that platform. But then that is very risky. So such speculative path with no guidance from devotees cannot really lead to happiness. So then Prabhupada explains, what is the real self-interest? Who knows what the real self-interest is? How do we know that what is good for us? Actually, Prabhupada explains here that the real self-interest is in serving Vishnu, in satisfying Krishna. And how do we satisfy Krishna? It's a nice verse that's quoted in the purport from Padma Purana, which says, Aradhanam Sarveshanam, Vishnum Aradhanam Param. Vishnu's Aradhana is Param, is the Supreme. But then there is something that is superior than the Aradhana of Vishnu, and that is Tadiyanam Samarchanam. He said Tadiyanam is the devotees of the Lord. Service to them is higher than service of Vishnu. And so therefore, the way to please Krishna or satisfy Krishna is by satisfying his devotees. And there's a very nice verse in the 10th canto, 80th chapter, 41, verse 41. He says, Etad evahi chach shishye kartavyam guru nishkritam yadvai vishuddha bhavena sarvarthamarpanam guru. It's a very nice verse. He says that this indeed is the duty of all the true disciples to repay the debt to their spiritual master by offering him with pure hearts their wealth and even their very lives. So, by serving the spiritual master, by serving our mentors and our senior devotees, actually we are trying to satisfy them, and by satisfying them, actually we are satisfying Krishna. So this is the process that's explained here. And so we are approaching the book marathon in 2 weeks' time. It's 14th, so 24th, in 10 days' time actually. Less than 2 weeks. We have a book distribution marathon, which is from 24th of November, 24th December. It's for 1 month. And that marathon is a service to Srila Prabhupada, because in the very early days of Krishna consciousness, the ISKCON movement, where just before the Christmas, I think in US, in one of the cities, I can't remember, the devotees they did like a little marathon, mini marathon, for 3 days, where they stayed up for pretty much the whole day and whole night. And like the whole temple went out and they distributed books. And they ended up distributing thousands of books. And then they gave report to Prabhupada that, that just prior to Christmas, because it's a Christmas time, devotees are all going, or people are all going for shopping, and the mood is very festive, the mood is to spend money, the mood is to like explore and travel. And so we did this mini marathon, and we ended up distributing so many thousands of books, and Prabhupada was very pleased. And Prabhupada approved of this, and Prabhupada said, yes, this is very nice. And so eventually the 3 days became 1 week, became 2 weeks, and eventually ended up becoming a month. So we have, so there's 1 month long marathon where that's devotees go out and put extra effort in trying to distribute the books. And this is the way to serve Prabhupada and serve the whole parampara, by distributing his books. And there are many instructions and many places where Prabhupada mentioned that the devotees, that he wants devotees to read his books, and he wants devotees to distribute his books. And actually it was interesting because Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Prabhupada didn't have a lot of interaction or a lot of personal association with his Guru Maharaj, but one of the only times, or one of the very few times that he had association or personal association with Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is when Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada instructed him that, if you have money, print books. That's because that's the most important service, that's the most important activities, print books. So Prabhupada took it to heart, and Prabhupada wrote so many books, and he wanted all these books to be distributed. And we can see how this is coming in parampara. Bhaktivinoda Thakur wanted these books to be distributed. Prabhupada wanted these books distributed, and we have all of our gurus in the society, in the movement now, all disciples of Prabhupada and followers of Prabhupada, who are also instructing the same thing, that we need to distribute these books. And a lot of times we might think that, oh, I don't like it. The book distribution is too difficult. I'm not really good at it. This is not my skill. Or I'm too scared to go and face the people on the streets. Or that what's the point of distributing books when most of the people are not even going to read them? Should I even be distributing them? So all these questions that we come up with, but actually we can see here that actually none of these questions, in one sense, should matter to us so much. We can see how just falling into this, through this, the mood of this verse, where the master is giving the instruction and the servant just does it without thinking about it too much. So as devotees, we are happy to just serve and follow the instructions of Prabhupada. Prabhupada wanted these books to be distributed and this knowledge to be passed on. And so we are happy, we should be happy to be engaged in this service in any way. So actually there are many instances where, this just talking about this instruction, that this verse where it's mentioned that the master commands that you must do this, and the servant just obeys without questioning why, or why should I do this, or that I can't do this, or this is too difficult. No. He said that master commands and the servant obeys. And that's a good mentality, especially when it comes to following the instructions of the spiritual master. And we heard this story from Keshav Prabhu many times, but it's a very nice pastime, where in the Mayapur, in the long building, where all the Prabhupada with all the devotees were in the roof of the building. And at one point Prabhupada just stops, and there are many disciples, and Prabhupada looks at Tamal Krishna Maharaj, and he says, jump from the building. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj gets ready and he starts getting ready to jump. And then Prabhupada says, stop. But, Maharaj didn't have this, Tamal Krishna Maharaj didn't have this question, oh really, Prabhupada really wants it? Maybe what is his real meaning? Does he want something else? Or is it too difficult? No, he's ready. So he's ready to jump. He's ready to do whatever Prabhupada wants, and then we know this very nice first time when Prabhupada is traveling to the Delhi and traveling to India, and then he stops at one of these train stations, and he sees that he finds out there's actually no temple, there's no devotees in this town, and so he just looks at like you and you, jump out now and open a center. And the devotees, they're all American bodied, have no idea, have first time to India, they don't have any money, nothing. So that jump out now, open the center. And so devotees, okay, quickly take the bags, jump down. And they literally have clothes for 2-3 days and they have no money, they have nothing. And they start and they actually open a temple. So of course, with the instruction, with this command, also comes the mercy. And the devotees who sincerely try to obey these commands get all the mercy of the spiritual master. And so therefore, even though there may be some initial struggle, actually just by following these instructions, we are overcoming our anarthas, our limitations, we are overcoming our own natures of what our body has provided us, or what nature has provided us. We are actually overcoming all that, we are transcending that, and we are allowing ourselves to receive the mercy through these instructions by following it. So it's a great opportunity, and we can see that opportunity is coming in next few days. So we can prepare ourselves, and we can somehow try and distribute these books. We have about 12 pallets of books coming. Thousands and thousands of books are coming. And there will not be any space to walk inside the storage. So now we need them out. So there are many ways we can distribute these books. We can go out on the streets for those devotees who are experienced or who have distributed books before, can focus on all demographics, can focus on, no need to focus on just one particular kinds of audience, but rather focus on everyone and try to give these books to all kinds of people, not just one kind or just any kind. We can focus and try to share this knowledge with everyone. We can, we have many different kinds of services related to book distribution. So there are many devotees that we need who can deliver the books in many different places. We are also starting a new project called Shastradan, where we are going to take these books to many street libraries and hopefully try and get them to different motels, hotels. So there are many devotees that we need who can take the books there. We need devotees who can sponsor the books for them. We need the devotees who can design the posters and flyers. So there are many things that we can do, coordinate. But somehow we want to do this service and we want to share this knowledge with as many people, just following in the instructions of our spiritual masters and as a service to please them. And also it's a very special day today, just in the line with understanding the mood of the devotee. What is the mood of the devotee? Is always serving Krishna and serving his instructions. So this is one of the highest devotees explained in the Bhagavatam is the Haridasa-varya. It's Govardhan. It's in the 10th canto is explaining that that this Govardhan is the highest of all the devotees. So this is the translation. I won't read the verse. Of all the devotees, this Govardhan hill is the best. Oh my friends, this hill supplies Krishna and Balaram along with their cows and cowherd friends with all kinds of necessities, water for drinking, very soft grass, caves, fruits, flowers and vegetables. In this way, the hill offers respects to the Lord, being touched by the lotus feet of Krishna and Balaram. Govardhan hill appears very jubilant. So, it's a very special day. So we seek blessings of Govardhan to be able to serve Krishna in a way that pleases him, and serve our spiritual masters in a way that pleases them, and give us the necessary strength and determination. So thank you very much. Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki jai. If anyone has any questions or comments or corrections.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you for the nice class. Prabhu, you mentioned how our relationship with Krishna is always as a master and a servant, and we can understand that when we're doing service, Prabhuji. But when we're doing chanting, we're begging for service. At the same time, we're trying to make a relationship with Lord Krishna. So, would that be in dasya or would that be in friendship, sakhya?
So, dasya is what is common among all the devotees. So, it's not that the sakhya devotees don't have any dasya. The friends of Krishna are also wanting to always serve Krishna somehow or other. The parents also want to serve Krishna somehow or other. The devotees, the gopis also want to serve Krishna in some way, in a way that will please Krishna. So in that way, all of them are seeking dasya, all of them are seeking the service. That is common among all the devotees. So when we are chanting and when we are praying Krishna for service, that's the right mood. That's the right mood for serving. And then, in matter of time, we'll understand our relationship with Krishna with more depth. But regardless of what is our relationship with Krishna, dasya, sakhya, vasalya, whatever, regardless, our inherent relationship is what is mentioned here in this verse. Is that you are the master and I am the servant. And that there is no other relationship than that. Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. And anything you want to add, Prabhu? Okay. Thank you very much. Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki jai, Śrīla Prabhupada ki jai.